In this video, I'm gonna explain why you need a creative hobby to live a more fulfilling life. For the past weeks, I've searched for the hidden benefits that a creative hobby can offer the brain, and I discovered way more than I expected. One of the most surprising benefits found in having a creative hobby is that it can enhance problem-solving skills, which will help you feel more accomplished. To understand why, let's look at the link between creativity and innovative thinking. A study conducted by NASA in 1968 set out to understand the nature of creative geniuses. They knew that creative thinking was the key to innovation. So NASA approached Dr. Land and Dr. Jarman and told them that they needed a way to find the most creative people on their team in order to put them to work on the toughest problems. The doctors designed a simple creativity test that was very predictive in finding the most innovative minds at NASA. They then wondered, is creativity innate or is it learned? So they took 1,600 children between the ages of 3 and 5 and made them take the creativity test. The results were astonishing because the proportion of genius creativity was found in 98% of children. Sadly, this skill is something we can lose if we don't use. In fact, the test was repeated at the age of 10 and the proportion of creative geniuses dropped to 30% and then to 12% at the age of 15 in the same group of children. The results were so depressing that the teachers conducting the tests didn't want to continue. But Dr. Land and his team tested 1 million adults of the general population and found that only 2% were labeled as creative geniuses. So if you're in the 98% of people who aren't creative, does that mean all hope is lost? No. In his TED Talk, Dr. Land tells us that we can find the 5-year-old. The capability to create never goes away. The part of the brain that produces a wonderful imagination is something that we can exercise every day when we're dreaming and when we're thinking. So how do we change our minds to become more like the 5-year-old creative geniuses? First, we need to understand why creativity has become more rare in our society. We have 2 ways of thinking in our minds. There is divergent thinking, which is where we use our imagination to create new ideas, new possibilities. And then there is convergent thinking, which is when you are making a judgment, making a precise decision, criticizing and evaluating that decision. The 2 ways of thinking cannot happen at the same time in the brain. What we learn in school is to start coming up with new ideas and then to look at them immediately and criticize them. Our neurons start clashing with each other, and what happens is that we start censoring our ideas. We are constantly scared of criticism. The solution to gaining back this ability is to start thinking creatively every day and tap into that imagination that everyone has. There are many ways that you can use your imagination. Whether it's experimenting with a new recipe or solving puzzles, you will find that you can improve over time. Exercising your creativity is going to make your mind flourish like a beautiful garden that has been treated with care. It will take time and it might feel uncomfortable in the beginning. But if you let go of your fear of failure, you will make room for greatness. You will succeed in making your mind stronger if you are constantly challenging it. And this new strength will apply to all aspects of your life. Your brain will form new connections and adapt to the demand, and the things that were hard at the beginning will become easier with practice. Your self-confidence will improve because you will realize you can learn anything if you put in your time and effort. Having a creative hobby is beneficial to relieving stress. This is because a creative activity requires concentration. The difficulty of the activity forces you to be present and mindful. Your attention shifts away from the stressors of life and goes to the task at hand. You enter what is called the flow state, where you lose track of time and are fully immersed in your craft. The flow state is actually something that is studied in neuroscience and can be measured with biomedical signals. Reaching the flow state requires a clear goal and a perfect match between skills and challenge. If the activity is too easy, it won't require enough concentration for flow state to be achieved, and if it's too hard, it will provoke anxiety. If the skill set improves, then the activity becomes more engaging and finally enjoyable. A professional ballerina, for example, has to be in flow state to be able to perfectly execute a complicated routine. Since concentration is increased during flow state, learning is more efficient and remembering the experience is easier. A 10-year study showed that people in flow state were 5 times more productive. Flow state is also characterized by higher enjoyment and more positive experiences. I hope this inspires you to try and feel the magic of flow state if you haven't yet experienced it. Before you go out and start a new hobby, don't go out and buy a bunch of equipment. At the beginning, you won't even know what the fancy stuff is for. You can start painting, for example, with 2 to 3 brushes, and as you improve, you'll face different needs, and then you can go out and buy the special brushes that are necessary for those needs. I want people to be engaged in this painting by focusing on the sunset and the villa, the boats and the water, and doing this loop. A creative hobby is an enjoyable activity that you can look forward to. So you break up the routine of working or studying, cooking and cleaning, and your life starts to feel more fulfilling. It's not easy to make time for hobbies, but you can do it if you analyze where you're spending your free time. If you're spending a lot of time on your phone, maybe that's a time you can exchange for a relaxing creative activity. Everyone has a different situation. There are people who have young children or who work multiple jobs, so maybe this doesn't apply to you. But if you have the privilege of having free time, think wisely of how you're spending it. Okay guys, the amount of times I tried to open this linseed oil bottle is actually ridiculous, and I almost gave up, but then I gave it one last shot and I was shocked by what happened. This is something that's happened so many times in my life where I'm struggling with something and I make a small prayer and the thing magically works. And the more you pray for small things, the more God answers your prayers for big things. I have to admit, I get kind of scared in front of a blank canvas because I'm afraid of the unknown. But this quote by Vincent van Gogh inspired me. He says, "Many painters are afraid of the blank canvas, but the blank canvas is afraid of the truly passionate painter who dares and who has once broken the spell of 'you can't.'" How you spend your free time is really important because it shapes who you are. When I was little, for example, my mom had a friend who was a stay-at-home mom. When her kids grew up and didn't need her anymore, she told my mom she felt depressed because she didn't know what to do anymore. The same thing could happen to someone who's always working, and then when they retire, they face a crisis because they don't know what hobbies they like. Knowing who you are and what hobbies you like can save you from feeling depressed later on by diversifying your interests and passions. If you have multiple hobbies, you can bring more variety of entertainment to your life. Human attention is the currency of the 21st century. That's why so many apps and companies are fighting for your time. If they can grab your attention, then they'll convince you to buy something or convert your attention into money. So where you put your time and attention is very valuable. It's actually even more valuable than money, because when you buy something, you can return it after 30 days. But when you give your time to someone, you'll never have it back. So choose wisely where you're spending your time. Even if you're really busy with housework or taking care of a family, it's important to carve out a little bit of time for your own hobbies. Life can start to feel meaningless and almost robotic if all you do is work, commute, cook, and clean. Having a creative hobby gives us something to look forward to and adds meaning to life. There's a study where they showed that people that had a gardening hobby lived longer than people that didn't, and that's because every day they had a reason to wake up, a purpose to do something good and create something beautiful, which then had a positive effect on their mental health. Keeping yourself cognitively challenged throughout your lifespan is a way to fight off cognitive decline, and this has been proven through research. The conclusion isn't necessarily to start gardening, but to have a hobby which you can look forward to. I used to think I'm gonna pursue my art again when I'm old because I don't have time right now. But I decided I don't want to wait to retire to do the things I love. This brings me to my next point, which is that our lives need balance. There's a saying in Islam which is, work for your worldly life as if you're living forever, and work for the hereafter as if you're dying tomorrow. This means that the way we spend our time and the work we do in this life is very important. We shouldn't waste our time and think that the days we have are useless. We should also not rush our work and make it sloppy, but take our time to build things of quality which will last through time, while also finding enjoyment. The second part of the saying means that whenever someone is presented with the opportunity to do something for the hereafter, like a good deed, he should carry it out without wasting time. The most important thing is to find balance between this life and the hereafter. So take a moment to reflect on your life. Do you feel like you're stuck in a hamster wheel that doesn't stop? What colors have you chosen to paint your life with? Are you crafting a masterpiece ignited by passion and purpose? Or are you drifting through a monochromatic existence? Whatever the answer is, you can take control of your life and bring more joy and meaning to it. Each day is a new opportunity to create something beautiful. The rule of 100 states that if you spend 100 hours a year, which is 18 minutes a day, in any discipline, you'll be better than 95% of the world in that discipline. And get this, 100 hours a year is just 1.2% of the total available time in a year. Imagine the potential you have to be special if you just stay consistent with one craft. So, is there anything you're doing right now for 18 minutes a day to be in the top 5%? If not, remember the 100 rule is just an example of what you could achieve if you stayed dedicated. In reality, it's not necessarily about the quantity of time, but the quality of your intention. Even if it takes you 15 minutes to set up your space and you only have 10 minutes to paint, use every last drop of that 10 minutes to bring back the 5-year-old creative genius that was once there. These small brushstrokes may seem meaningless when observed individually, but when we look at them as a whole, we can see that each one contributes to the final masterpiece. It's like when you're working towards a larger goal, you might get tunnel vision and start doubting yourself, yet every skill you master plays an essential role in the grand scheme of things. In the midst of life's chaos, those small moments of deep focus will become your sanctuary, your safe space for self-expression. You will awaken dormant talents, sharpen skills, and open the floodgates to your imagination. In the end, the relentless pursuit of excellence is what separates the ordinary from the extraordinary. The hand you've been dealt does not define you, but how you choose to play it does. I believe everyone has a hidden talent. Sometimes it just takes a little longer to find it, but when you do, you can become unstoppable. There's this story of a man who assembles a variety of animals and asks them who can climb a tree the fastest. In the story, the fish isn't even able to get out of the water. It would spend its whole life thinking it isn't as good as the other animals. Similarly, if you put a bunch of kids in a classroom and you tell them to compete in the same discipline, some will naturally be better because that's what they've been gifted with. If the other kids never get to experiment with their talent, they will start to be self-conscious and think they aren't as smart as the other kids, when in reality, they haven't been tested with their talent. Even if you don't believe you're naturally talented in anything, the true key to success is having the ambition to improve no matter the difficulty. The road to success will be paved by mistakes and failures, but every mistake is a lesson, and every lesson makes you better. I made a lot of mistakes during this painting. For example, I painted the mountains a wrong color. I went too far with the dark water and then had to paint over it with the light water. I started to doubt my ability to finish this painting and to keep everything with correct proportions. Sometimes I wanted to give up because I was too overwhelmed and tired. Even with all the preparations with the little paintings, I ended up painting people just to realize they didn't fit with the rest of the painting and erasing them by painting on top of them. But I didn't give up because the most important thing was to have a finished painting, not a perfect painting. Instead of comparing yourself to others, focus on improving yourself. Don't give up when you encounter challenges. Success is not a destination, but a journey, paved by diligence and determination. Keep working hard even when things get tough. Imagine one day a smarter, more creative version of your future self looking back and thanking your present self for what you started.